Welcome to the Brooklyn Rail's 335th New Social Environment. I am Jess Chen, Events Assistant here at the Rail, and I have the pleasure and privilege of being your MC today for a conversation between Daniel Gibson and Amanda Gluibizzi. We're thrilled to have the poet Anna Gurton-Wachter here who will read to close today's program. A few quick notes before we get started. The Rail team will be helping out with tech if you have questions. Closed captions are available by pressing the live transcript button at the bottom of the screen. We've started all of our events with two important acknowledgements. The first is that here in New York, we are on Lenape-Hoking, the unceded land and waters of the Wappinger, Canarsie, Munsee, and Lenni Lenape people of the Delaware Nation and Shinnecock Indian Nation. The second is an acknowledgement that Black Lives Matter. The heart of both of these acknowledgements is a commitment to the liberation of the oppressed and solidarity for all who struggle for freedom, in recognition that when it comes to liberation, our histories never unfold in isolation. In that spirit, I encourage you all to check out the chat for a living document of resources and actions. And now to introduce today's guest and host. Born in Yuma, Arizona, artist Daniel Gibson grew up in El Centro, California, and other surrounding towns that border Mexicali, Baja California. His early inspiration came from the exposure to the desert and communities, raised at a sheet rock factory in Plaster City, California, where his father worked. He currently lives and works in Los Angeles, California. He is joined by Amanda Gluibizzi, formerly associate professor at Ohio State University and the founding co-director of the New Foundation for Art History. She's also the Artseen Editor for the Brooklyn Rail, and she specializes in mid and late 20th century art, design, and urbanism in the United States, Europe, and Latin America. Amanda is the author of Art and Design in 1960s New York. Amanda, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Jess, and thank you everybody so much for coming after a long holiday weekend. For those of you in New York, I just want to let you know that when I spoke with Jess and Daniel last week, they both told me that hot, humid weather is their favorite. And I think they're crazy because it's like some sort of horrific oven here right now. So welcome. Daniel, you were just starting to tell us about this amazing punk band that you developed with your brothers when you were younger. So
I don't know if we were like, oh yeah. Well, I grew up out in the desert, so we just had each other. And so I grew up with my dad always playing music in the house, and it was very dad rock. It wasn't punk. It was CCR and Steve Miller Band and the Eagles and Boston, and we would play and the Beatles, and we'd play and Rolling Stones, and we'd play the records, and then we'd have this mock band because it was three of us. And I was like the guitar player singer. We'd put flashlights on the end of our broomstick, and my older brother actually chiseled out a big warlock looking guitar, like a heavy metal guitar. And that was like our thing. And we would just there was other kids in this little 2-block radius of the factory town. And I remember my older brother would pull up on his bike and be like, let's get out of here, man. Let's go play band. And then we drop everyone's toys and take off like a gang. And then I ended up being in bands forever because of that.
Oh, Malvika wants to know, what was the name of the band?
Well, we just called it The Band, which was, we didn't know about the band back, then. My dad didn't know about the band, so we didn't know about it. But we were just called The Band.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I actually only read the first part of Malvika's question. What was the name of the factory town in the desert where you lived?
Plaster City, California. It was set up. The housing was set up accidentally. It was just for workers in the 60s. And then by the time the 80s came around, in the late 70s, they started admitting families, a couple families here and there. And then at the end of 88, when they tore it down, we had 80 people living there. So I don't know how many families that would make, but it was just 2 blocks of everyone that worked in the factory. My dad was he was a mechanic and electrician at the factory. So he was being called all the time. So they would just like, it was literally probably like, I don't know, I'm not really good at like meters or yards, but it was about 1,000 feet from from the factory. So it was just like this billowing factory that's just burned in my memory, you know. So I mean, a lot of the art, I don't really paint about the factory too much. Maybe I will this time, but the desert horizon is definitely the thing that's like still stuck in my head, because that was like the first memories, first thing I've ever seen. So, and the first thing I've ever drawn. And it's funny that I'm still drawing it today. But
when we talked last week, you mentioned actually that the skies there were a really, really striking color. So can you tell our participants a little bit about that?
I mean, I learned the sunsets in the Imperial Valley, or most agricultural towns, are bright orange and they're beautiful. But unfortunately, it's because of the pesticides that are sprayed on the fields. And but they're really beautiful. But they're like these amazing, like glowing green and like almost pink sunsets, which is beautiful. And that pops in my work too. It's like these like sunsets that are just spectacular. And it's because of the pollution, sadly, but from the pesticides in the fields. But I don't know. I enjoy it. It's kind of bad though. There's a lot of like cancer in the town. But.
Yeah. You had mentioned when we spoke last week that it's actually one of the highest cancer rates in the country. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, a lot of ag towns are, and I guess, you know, just because of the pesticides.
Right.
You know?
So it's both like a privilege as an artist to experience something that seems surreal, but also is a disaster, a human disaster in the making.
Yeah,
right?
It really is. And and also like the desert, when you actually go out there, the way I paint it is completely fantastical from the way it actually is. It's just blown out, and the light is just overpowering, and there's no shade. But I'm like kind of making these lush like landscape vibrant color paintings, which is funny because when you actually go out there, I was just out there last week, and I was like just driving through it, and I'm like, I'm like making up all the colors in my head to like offset the fact that it's just like this really just blown out desert landscape, you know, dry, super dry area.
Yeah, no wonder you like humidity.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned too, for those of us who aren't from California, we tend to think about it being high desert, you know, so kind of mountainous desert. But as you were saying last week too, it's really low desert. So all of this pollution kind of just gets stuck in this area and stuff. And so it really is something where people are living essentially in a cloud.
Yeah. When people think of the desert, I think they think of Joshua Tree. And which I love Joshua Tree. I want to go out there right now to start drawing for my new show, but it's different. It's like because when I go home, I drive through Joshua Tree and I'm like, wow, it's so beautiful here. There's mountains, and then you just start going down, then you hit the Salton Sea, and then you just keep going, and then it turns into like, oh, this is like what I call the dirty South, the very last stop in California, you know. And it's really like an area which is, if you live there, when you're from there, you're proud of the place because you kind of feel like everybody forgot about you. Like in California, especially in the public school system, and for money, how it gets distributed, we're the last people to get anything. So we are like the bottom of the barrel kind of California. There's like a pride to that. And then there's also like I don't know, I didn't grow up going to museums. I didn't grow up, with like art in my life. I didn't grow up with anyone saying that you could be an artist or so, I don't know. It's like a blessing and a curse, but I'm really proud that I'm from there, and like I grew up there, because it really shaped who I am today.
Mm-hmm. I understand to a little degree. I'm from Cleveland, and as a lot of people know, that is, the butt of many jokes in movies. So I got you.
Mm-hmm.
How did you know then that you were an artist?
Wow. I don't know. I always kind of like drew in books, and then I started drawing on walls and being just a lunatic, drawing on everything I saw, defacing stuff. But honestly, I started when I was 21. I'm always telling the story because I kind of have to. I can't really dodge it. But I was living in San Diego, and I was delivering sandwiches, and I was delivering sandwiches to this girl at a coffee cart, and I had a crush on her, and I was just like kind of being in bars way too much, playing pool. I was, not really doing anything with my life. I had zero direction. I was probably 21. This is in San Diego, and she was like, "What do you like to do? Why are you always here? Like, you deliver the sandwiches. Why are you always here?" And I was just like, I'm just hanging out, And she's like, "What do you like to do? What are you into?" She's like trying to figure me out. And then I dodged the question because I was like, "Ooh, don't tell her that you play pool all day and ride a skateboard and, you do nothing." And I dodged the question, and I asked her what she did, and she said that she was a painter. And I paused for a second, and I was like, "Fuck, me too." And I just blurted out that I was a painter. And she was like, she touched my arm, and she was just like, "Really? Oh my God, I can't believe you're a painter. I never meet any painters." She was already like, painting, and was going to school at Grossmont College, and then she went to San Diego, so she was already like painting, and I totally lied. And I went to a Michael's around here. I don't know if they're all over the country, but I went to a Michael's artist and craft store and like bought oil paints, cheap thing of canvas, and went home and went back to my place where I was living with friends. And I remember I was like, "I talked to her today, guys. I talked to her," and they're like, "Finally, you can like shut up about it." And they're like, "What's in the bag?" And there was like this big Michael's bag with like canvases. And I was like, "Oh, I told her I was a painter." One dude just like spit his beer out and was like, "Dude, you are a loser. What are you doing? You're not a painter." And I was like, "I am now." And like, and I just like stayed up all night and tried to figure it out. No turpentine, and just cheap Michael's oil paint. And here I am. We're still good friends, and I talk to her all the time. And the joke is like, if she said that she was an accountant, I would have been like, "Me too." I would, if she would have like, in the times where like I had zero money and it was like, a super broke artist, and I was just like down on my life choices at that point. And I would like, "Why couldn't you just been an accountant? I would have been like driving an Audi and living in a house by now," But
That is the most productive story of positive peer pressure that I have ever heard.
Out of fear, I really, but the thing about that my friends noticed is that my life changed, and I just started. I remember she would drop me off at like punk shows, and I would like go all the way home. Like I would lie to her and tell her I was like going to like a bar, and I would like immediately go home and just frantically try to start drawing. And I remember one day I went to her coffee cart. I think it was the next day, back to the coffee cart. And I told her that, she asked me what I was going to do that day or what I was doing last night or something. And I told her I I needed to mix a bunch of yellow. And she like kind of looked at me like, what? And I knew that I said something bad. And I was like, oh no. And then I went to a college. I snuck into a college and learned that, opened up an art book and learned that, yellow is a primary color and can't really make yellow.
Well,
But you can,
some
but
yellows,
like,
yeah.
some kind of yellow, but I was like, I wasn't even there yet. But then I found like, I was in the art section. So I was like, okay, well, and I found like a Picasso book, a Calder book, Jackson Pollock book. And then I went home and just started devouring everything. And I still do it today. I'm constantly learning and looking at books and studying. So it's still ongoing.
The former librarian in me, my heart is just like so full right now. I'm so proud of you. Let's look at this show that you have up, okay? Malvika, do you mind if you pull up the slides so we can take a look? Okay, so we're talking to Daniel today on the event of his solo show at Almeen Rec in New York. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so here it is, Ocotillo Song. So can you explain to us what this title is?
Oh, well, the Ocotillo Song, I was in Santa Fe with Ethan, the director of Almeen, and we were thinking of the title. We couldn't think of it, and we actually we both got the email, and we were like, oh, I need to title this today. I'd been putting it off because I couldn't think of something, and he actually came up with it. And right when he said it, it clicked. I was just, oh, that's it. I can't believe that you just did that right now. But it really does feel like, to me, the Ocotillo Song feels like, for one, the sound of the desert and the sound of like the wind through Ocotillos, the sound of, through the creosote, the wind that like, I don't know, it's just like a different sound from like a forest or, I love that sound. And also like, I think of art making as music and songs and storytelling. So, I mean, it just worked perfect.
Mm-hmm. So let's scroll through some of these, and can you tell us a little bit about, are you telling a story with these images? How do they relate to each other?
Yeah, they the first one on the wall, the big one, I'm so bad at remembering titles, but this one, yeah. That was the first one I made after the paper show that was in February. It was an online show with Almeen. And so that was the first one that I made. And that bought the vase. It's like a cricket vase because I had two, they left, which is really sad, but I had two crickets in my studio and they became friends during the pandemic when we were all just in lockdown. I had two cricket friends, and some days they were almost like dogs. They would like come up to me and I would just kind of talk to them, and I was just hoping they didn't talk back. But so the vase is like two little cricket skeletons. I don't know what I was thinking with that painting, but I really love it though. It's just me holding up the vase, and the hands I took from R. Crumb's Stoned Again. It's like a blacklight poster, and I repeated it a couple of areas. I love his keep on and then the Stoned Again, where his like face is melting into the table, into his hands. So that's where that is coming from. Just holding up the weight of the vase. And then I repeated it again in the other room with strawberry.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask Malvika to scroll through the images really, really quickly near to the end, just so that I can show you something. I really was curious about whether or not you were looking at our crumb in this imagery, actually.
Yeah.
Let's
There's
see.
another one. Yeah.
Where I saw our crumb was nearly there, nearly there.
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 Yeah, that's it.
So tell us about this. Why our crumb? Why are you looking at him?
I don't know. It's just like such an iconic image to me. There was a Perry Vasquez, an artist in San Diego. He made this drawing from this image of the Keep on Trucking, and he called it Keep on Crossing. And it was like the same guy, but like with more like Latino features, like the mustache and I think a hat, and he's crossing the border. And I love that image. And he made like figurines, like plaster figurines out of them. They're so beautiful. I want to get one out. I don't know how many he made, but this is kind of like, you know, I put this is a picture of my mother working in the strawberry fields in the 60s when they first came to the US. So it was just, you know, a play on that of the keep on trucking, keep on crossing, you know.
Yeah, and totally taking on like the subversive tones of the R. Crumb imagery, right? With the R. Crumb, some of them you could have some plausible deniability, but here very, very clearly, this mother figure is definitely telling us what's what here.
Yeah. And what's funny about this painting is I've always knew this story and I never knew how to tell it. And it came to me one day when I'm just like in a flood of just I love that. This is why I make art, is the ability for something just to jump in your head and you frantically run to sketch it out. And I love that feeling that I get when something opens up and you receive something. I can't really explain it, but it's the feeling I chase. So this image, like that was one of those things where, you know, my mom got really mad. She didn't get mad, but she's like, "Ay, mijo, I don't flip people off." You know, she was like being really like, I've never flipped anyone off in my life. And the story is that when they came to the US, they worked up and down the Central Coast or the Central Valley, picking strawberries, working in the campesinos. And the guy, there's a person on the left on a horse, and that's the ranch owner. And he was always yelling at the girls, my aunts and all the kids, because there were children when they're working out there. He was always yelling at them and being a jerk and saying like, "Be careful with the big strawberries because they're going to Japan." And he was like really bragging about how much money he made and how much money he's making off the big strawberries. So every time he would turn around, she would like get the attention of my tias and bite into the big strawberries, like, and she would just like eat all the strawberries, you know, and as much as she could. If she saw a big strawberry, she would just devour it. So I'm like explaining to my mom, I'm like, the act of yeah, you never flipped him off or flipped anyone off, but the act of eating all the huge strawberries is the ultimate, like, so it's just pretty funny that I love this image. It's still, you know, I miss it really.
What will you do about that? Will you make yourself a personal copy, or what's your plan here?
Well, the gallery made these really beautiful show cards that are just really thick and juicy and embossed and everything. So I'm just gonna like, and I think this is coming back to LA too. Okay. The collector is also in LA, so I'm gonna have to come visit it once in a while.
I like that idea. This was a really interesting image to me. I was telling Jess this morning that I had the image of the R crumb in the back of my mind, and I couldn't articulate what it was. It took me like a whole week to figure out what the image was.
Did you see you saw what I was doing before I said it? Oh, okay, great. Cool.
Yeah. So I only sent her this image this morning because like all week I've been trying to figure out what the reference image was. But in order to get a little bit more art historical on you, if we go to the next image, I think that there are lots of resonances here. So I think we could look at someone like Jean-Francois Millet and the Sower.
Ooh.
This is at the Boston MFA. And, it's just this like really, really stunning image of this man sowing the field. And of course, we're looking at him from below. And so he takes on this magnificence that, of course, a person who would have been a sower in 1850 would not have had, right? And so he has this overwhelming quality in the landscape, which I think your mother, or this mother figure on the left, really, really shares. So there's a little bit. And then if we go to the next slide, I was also thinking about Bruegel and the way that he takes figures who are so often ignored, or people who society would make fun of, and raises them because of his interest in storytelling and also his compassion as a human being into the heroes of the story. And so here too is the parable of the sower. So we're looking at, of course, a biblical image. So I think that this picture that you've painted has so many resonances for me. And weirdly enough, the one that was most direct, the R crumb, was the one that was hardest for me to grasp.
Cool. And also I'm taking the outfit from a like strawberry shortcake doll from the 60s. Like her strawberry shortcake's outfit kind of changed over the years, but this is the one I kind of found from the first strawberry shortcakes. And the other funny thing is my mom said that she had striped pants when she would work out there. Like I was like, Mom, why are you wearing fancy striped pants? What are you on, a chain gang? Like a fashion chain gang? What are you doing out there? I'm like, we joke around a lot, but yeah, she had striped pants too, which is, she thought that it was really weird that I did that, but.
That is really, I wanted this painting to smell like strawberry shortcake, actually.
Oh, that'd be really cool.
You're gonna have to work on that.
Well, I always grew up with strawberries in the house, which is really weird. And like the decor of like the 80s and 90s where it was dedicated to strawberries all over. And I never put the connection together. And every year I would have a strawberry shortcake for my birthday, which is weird. I love strawberries.
Well, who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Yeah.
Let's see this painting that was inspired by Marston Hartley, because this was one of the art historical images that you were really, really interested in sharing with us. Malvika's gonna wander back through here.
Let's wander.
Amanda, if you want to tell me where in the sequence it is.
Jess, can you tell us? Because I don't have it at the show in front of me here.
Yes, just keep.
Here it is.
Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is the Hartley itself, and then I believe the previous image is Daniel's image.
Yeah.
Okay. So talk to us about this. What was it about the Hartley that really spoke to you?
Well, I've seen that his painting, and I've always known this story that I'm going to tell about mine, but I always saw that painting and thought about my story of my dad's birth in Sinaloa. I guess I'll get into the story of mine. So this is a picture of my grandmother in a fishing boat. And they had a fishing boat. The family had a fishing boat, and they'd go out every day. And she was the cook for all the men. And the men were like her uncles, her cousins, her everybody in the family. They all had a boat, so she would cook for them. And she went out 9 months pregnant because she's such a badass. She went out 9 months pregnant, like miles out to sea, and went into labor. And they rushed her back to the sea, to the shore, and she had my dad on the beach, like in the sand. I think my dad said they put down like a palm frond or something, and just had the baby there. And I always looked at that painting, Marsden's, and thought like, I want to make something like that, like this. And then one day it took me a while to just be like, I'm just gonna like lift it and borrow it and kind of change it around. And I really wish I made those Marsden clouds that I love, but I kind of wanted to like make it mine and leave his a little bit and take what I wanted. Changing the boat. If you go back to mine, you can't really zoom in on this, but so she's laying on the boat. Oh, you can. Wow. So she's laying on the boat, and I first drew like a bunch of men like kind of hovering over, and you couldn't really see, and I wanted to take away that gaze of that whole scene because that would have been really weird. But so I kind of put the eyes in the fishing line that are like kind of looking down at her. And then that made the Louise Bourgeois' spider, which is also, she talks about womanhood and the womb. So that when that happened, I was like, wow, it's, I made a cool picture.
I have two questions. Well, I have many questions, but two questions come right to mind. First of all, what do you like about Marston Hartley's clouds?
Just that they're just, sometimes they're squares.
Yeah, they're kind of like loaves of bread or something.
Yeah, they're like floating loaves of bread. There's a weight to them that just seems like they're about to burst.
They're like corgis of the sky.
There you go. That's a good one. Yeah, they just feel odd or like misplaced, and like design wise, they're just like too far, and they're just kind of scattered and they're not like designed pretty, I don't know, but they're so awkward. I love them, but I actually painted some kind of blocky clouds in this painting and then decided to go with this. And then it was really hard. There's no real detail in my flowers here. Well, there is not as blown out as his, but I wanted to like kind of capture it. But and also there's the seashell from Baja, even though this is in Sinaloa, there's a seashell that's fixed to this.
Yeah, that was going to be my second question. This is one of several paintings in the current show that has these sand dollars stuck to them. So tell us a little bit about this found object collage element.
Well, this is hold on one second. Is Mary here? She is. Oh, this is Mary Weatherford is in the audience here. And this is my tip of the hat to you, Mary. She's put on seashells, and a lot of her, I've worked with her for 6 years. And and I've always seen all her old archives, and I love all her work, and a lot of the work has seashells on it. And for years I've been like, me and a couple other people that work, we're like, oh, I wish I could just do that. Why can I do that? Why can I just do that? And Mary, you don't know this, but we have studio homies where we all chat. And I was like, for a couple of years, I would always like hold up a sand dollar to the painting. I'm like, and I would take a picture of it and send it to all the studio homies and be like, should I do it, guys? And everyone's like, yeah, just do it. She'll love it. And I was always like, oh, this is so. And one day I just started gluing them on, and I love it. But I love its placement too, and and I get a thumbs up. Thank you. Yeah, so that's that story. And I grew up. One of the pastimes is every time I'd go to the beach with my mom, we'd always collect seashells. So that's like another beautiful memory I have.
Mm-hmm. I was really struck by this painting too, because we can really see the way that you're using your brushwork to create the image. So it's not like you've outlined something and then you're just filling it in with paint. You're actually using these brush strokes to develop waves, to develop the cliff. That too seems very Marsden Hartley to me.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this one's, I love it.
So how do you begin an image?
I really focus on drawing first, but a lot of the times, not this one, but a lot of the images, they kind of come to, they kind of I feel like I'll go for a run, I'll go for a long walk or a bike ride, and kind of just always, I always want to like be in it. I don't know how to explain that, but just always kind of thinking, a lot of times I probably look like I'm in the clouds, but I'm really just kind of, I never want to like separate myself from the work at all. Mm-hmm. So just always thinking, I'm always thinking of like, I'm always looking and observing other things and seeing how I can like take a color, take that sunset, take something and make it mine. And I kind of like right now I'm preparing for my next show in LA, and I can feel that I'm already starting to like, turn it on, mm-hmm. and like be like open to receiving something. I don't know if that sounds, I know what I sound like a smoothie drinking LA hippie, but yeah, that's how it comes. And then I start drawing a lot. Mm-hmm. And I draw I'll probably draw for a good month. Mm-hmm. And then I just start like, this is going to be that, this is going to be that, this is going to be that.
In sketchbooks or on canvas? Where are you?
On paper, on just loose paper, and I throw them around. And the show that's going to happen in LA is going to show a lot of drawings, which I love. I love the drawings because to me, that's where the magic happens. That's where like the burst of tears happen. That's where like when you actually are receiving like some kind of transmission. The painting is like you put on a podcast and watch another like action movie because you don't want to even like pay attention to it, but you need something because it's mm-hmm. like the 16th hour of being alone. So, but like there's like another aspect of, I love that part too of actually putting paint down, but mm-hmm. the drawing is like where I get the chills, where things are coming in and out, and my mind is like firing.
Yeah. Do you ever find that you're receiving too much?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when I was writing my master's thesis, my advisor was like, Amanda, not everything has to go in.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I mean, well, I think artists are sensitive people. We're sensitive, and people that are creative, like thinkers, we feel everything. And, most of my life and like how I had to grow up was just, I was explaining to people, like when I walked out the door of my house, like I had to have my chest out, my head up, and walk like, I was like a shoegazer, like little sensitive kid. And I wanted to stare at my shoes. And, the way I grew up, I had to like walk straight and walk like be looking around constantly, and that was like the environment. But I I don't know. Now I just blessed that I get to just think, make pictures, you know.
If your head is in the clouds, what sort of clouds are they?
I stare at clouds so much. I'm like a child, like a 5-year-old, but I'm still staring at clouds and picking out images. I'm 44 years old. I hope that never goes away. You know, I'm always looking at a flower and trying to we're looking at this picture. None of these are flowers that are probably exist, you know, except for the California poppies at the bottom or scattered around. But I don't really know about flowers. I don't know what they're called. I just kind of paint them like how, you know, I just kind of put paint down and then like let it bloom itself, you know.
I was really struck by your flowers, actually. When I posted about this conversation on Instagram, all of the pictures that I posted were details of your flowers from your current paintings. There's something about them actually that's simultaneously completely artificial and also really real, like those wonderful little wildflowers that just seem like they're just like a collection of little feathers that seemed like totally plausible in your paintings.
Yeah, but I see that someone said the datura seems pretty recognizable. Yeah, the datura is like where the angel's trumpet and the devil's weed. That's like kind of where like that one. That's the datura. So someone will probably correct me, but when they're facing to the sky, they're called the devil's weed. This is what I probably ran through my filter, which is oof. And when they're hanging down, they're called angel's trumpet. So I kind of played with that a lot. Like if I'm talking about, you know, life and death, you know, this is life, this is death, or a lot of times this will be life, or sometimes they're, you know, facing out. So I'm kind of like positioning them to what I'm thinking of what they represent.
This is a really, it's a great image to rest on, because I think that compositionally it seems pretty clear, right? It's kind of being broken down into basically perpendicular angles, right? So we have some really strong verticals and really strong horizontals, but then there's also this kind of unexpected vertical, angle that goes from top left to bottom right, or bottom right to top left. And this is really, really fascinating to me, the way that we're dealing with the diagonal here.
Yeah.
How do you build your compositions?
I always think of a circle, or I always think of wanting to, I want your eye to like go around like a swirl, you know, or I want to like kind of like make things go in and out and exit points and the edges. And so yeah, I'm always really playing with things that leave the like push out of the canvas and things that swirl around inside of it. I think like I can probably go through every one of these paintings and then has like the formula. Where I don't know. I just, yeah, here's a swirl. That's a swirl of the.
Oh, let's pause on this one for 1 second. One of the people in the chat actually asked you to talk about butterflies in your work. Can you address that while we're looking at this?
Well, the butterfly to me and represents, you know, the migration of butterflies. You know, growing up on the border and watching people cross, and you know, the way this like big butterfly that's like going through the desert is like a vehicle to like pick up migrants that are like dying out there in the desert. And there's a thing where like when I see someone that's in Los Angeles or anywhere in the country, and I and I see them either working fields, the working as a janitor or somewhere, they come from Honduras or somewhere. And I know what it took for them to get here. If they came to the border, through that area, like where I'm talking about is this funnel that the Border Patrol kind of leaves open for them to like, they kind of funnel them through. Well, Trump's wall is there now, a bigger wall, but like they get funneled through the desert because it is death defying to get. If you make it, like there's some kind of like miracle that happened for you to get here, to have crossed that desert. You can get out of your car in the AC car and get out into the desert and sit there for about 4 minutes until you're like, holy shit, I'm gonna die. And people walk through that. And a lot of the times, like, the reason why I talk about this is because growing up, I would see them coming into the factory. And a lot of times they were drinking their own urine. Children my age, I was about 10, 11, and I would see kids my age completely battered from the sun and completely half dead with their families. And they're drinking their own urine. They have shoes. They have no shoes anymore. And they're so disoriented. And I just like couldn't believe that they were gonna keep going from where we were at. And we were only I think 8 to 10 miles from the border. So by the time they got to us, they're already like wrecked, So we would like kind of put them in trees and like direct them where to go, and made sure they didn't go down to this quarry area where it was kind of a bad move. They always wanted to go to India or another town, trying to bypass the towns. So the butterfly to me represents like this mystical thing that scoops, migrants up and carries them to safety. Yeah. So a lot of the flowers in the bottom represent the migrants a lot of times, or sometimes I'll put an actual figure in there. I'll put in I'll almost make them look alien-like because of this like idea that if we call them aliens, we actually make them, like I was in an airport once, and the only reason I'm saying that is because I was like forced to watch Fox News while eating a sandwich with a bunch of other people in the airport. And this gross woman was just like, the legal aliens and the legal aliens. And she kept saying it 400 times in like 3 minutes. I'm exaggerating, but like she just kept saying the word aliens, like with her face, and everyone was just eating sandwiches and just like, eating sandwiches and just like thinking of human beings as aliens. And I thought that was like just the most racist, disgusting thing imaginable. So I started like adopting the alien that like using the like alien features, and some of them are in my paintings, but just like, oh, you're gonna call us aliens, well, I'm gonna make us look like aliens,
Yeah, this is your strawberry.
Yeah.
This reminds me a lot of the painting that you're working on that's behind you to your right. So maybe Malvika, if we can turn off the slides, and then we can see Daniel much bigger. I was thinking about the tunnel one, but I want you to talk about all of these images. So we're actually talking to Daniel in his studio right now, and these are works that you're working on for your upcoming show. Is that right?
No, this one I made in 2019.
Okay, so this is older. Okay.
Yeah, it's older. And all these are older. I haven't started on my show yet. I'm starting right after this.
Okay. Yeah, good choice, good choice.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. But this is called the Calexico Tunnel, and it's there's a lot of tunnels that are dug, usually by drug cartels in on the border, and they're not really necessarily made for people smuggling or people crossing through there. I'm sure they do because money talks, but they're usually used for drugs. But in my idea, there's like this big open tunnel in Mexicali, and they're coming across, and she's leading the pack of people that are getting into this tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love this painting. It's like my like personal one, I'm not getting rid of.
I'm really struck by it too. I'm thinking about, of course, this tunnel almost as like a version of the Underground Railroad or something,
Yeah.
like as people are moving through and passing, but also the way that the female figure is actually prying open the earth. And of course, if we were to do, again, an art historical reading, we would talk about how she might actually be giving birth to these people, right? As she's like opening up this vaginal opening. It's really spectacular.
Thank you.
And then what's behind you directly behind you? What are we looking at here?
And also in 2019, I also work in black and white, like graphite sumi drawings on raw canvas. Well, no, I prepped the canvas, but I still love making these black and whites, and I'm still trying to figure out how to mix in bold color with the black and white. I kind of like, I made the first ones and then saw the Jackson Pollock's, I think the black and white paintings that he made. And then I was like, oh. I made one and then I was like, oh no, okay, this is like, and then I was inspired. Then I went off on like researching that, which I love those black and whites. I think they're called something else though. But yeah, I love making these because there's no, well, this one's a little different from what I make, but I love that they look like lino cuts, like expressionism lino cuts, but they're not. They're like, they're drawn with a stick, and then then they get like heavy graphite, and then I mix the sumi ink on top of it. So even though they look really fast, they take a long time because you actually mix the sumi. I don't know if you want to talk about materials, but I have to mix the sumi with the charcoal while it's flat on the wall. So it's like a careful thing to not get drips, because I don't really like drips too much, but.
This is the audience to talk about this material stuff. Go for it.
Really?
Yeah, definitely.
I love
it. I'm really enamored of these. So tell us more about them. What is the imagery, or are they abstract?
No, this is, I made this during when we all learned about Ahmaud Arbery getting killed by those racist pig fuckers. Can I say that? Sorry.
We're all friends here.
Yeah. Those two, I don't know who, the three guys when he was running.
Yeah, disgusting.
And so this is like, I don't know, I just kind of thought of the mother screaming up to the sky, and it's like, I don't know if someone else is silencing her with her hand, or if it's her like gasping, or if it's like some other hand like shutting her up. I drew it pretty fast and pretty like when it was fresh, when I'm like watching it on the news and making the drawing, but there's a figure also here too.
Okay.
And this is kind of like the, can you see it?
Well, we're a little far, but I think that it's whetting our appetites for more. Oh, all right, here we go.
Can you see?
Okay. Oh, that's really great. Thank you.
Where is it at? Okay, it's right there. And he's like releasing this bug on her shoulder. And that was kind of like, it was kind of talking about, you know, the coronavirus that was killing everybody.
That one almost feels like it's like your version of a Guernica or something.
Yeah, and that's also my favorite painting. That
Oh, well, then there you go.
yeah, but I'm always placing that painting. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the painting to chase, but also the
Mhm.
Guernica is like the reason why I do the black and whites.
Mhm. Mhm.
Trying to
Yeah, please go ahead. I'm sorry.
I love the black and whites. It's just like I love storytelling, so I want to like tell a story without all the color to like wow anybody. You know, it's just like I feel like the black and whites have no fat on them.
Mhm.
So like it's just all it's like it's not a pop song. It's like a singer songwriter type of song with an acoustic. You know, it's just stripped down. It's like a 3-piece drum kit instead of the Neil Peart, you know, Rush drum set that has like
Yeah.
80, 100 pieces. So like that's why I love doing the black and whites, because it's like an immediate story, or there's no like, because a lot of times a lot of my imagery or the stories is kind of a heavy topic, but I kind of give you colorful flowers to like, you know, look at.
Yeah.
You know, like the butterfly, like the butterflies and all the other imagery that I do is kind of dealing with life and death situations.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I'm making like, look at this flower. You know, make it digestible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one on the left definitely feels more Pollock to me. The one on the right, like I said, it feels very Picasso. The one on the left almost reminds me of something like Portrait in a Dream, for example. If you can imagine those Pollocks that are black and white and kind of like build up out of almost like a morass or something like that. So definitely here I'm feeling that, while also, you know, seeing you, you know, pull away from that and, you know, go in your own direction. You know, again, seeing perhaps like a cricket skeleton or something in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is also, there's someone running at the bottom. That's like the figure that's kind of here.
I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's back to what the running down a suburban street, like the fear of that he probably had. I don't know.
I think they're stunning. I would love to see more of this black and white imagery.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird that people will like message me and say like, I love the black and whites, all right, or I only love the color, you know, like, and I don't really want to like stop doing one or the other, because they feel it's a whole different way of making work for me, that like, you know, I'll make a color one and then I immediately want to make a black and white one, because it's just like fast and like the drawing part is really fun, and it's and you know, this is more like the other one's more figurative, and this is just kind of wild for me. Or like I kind of like take my brain and put it here and just kind of like go, and not, you know, I'm thinking about the subconscious a lot with these, and just seeing what's coming out, instead of like kind of like, should I put the head here? You know, making a sketch for like a painting in the current show, you know.
Yeah. These I feel are kind of unusual too, in that they're square or close to square, and such an interesting and difficult format to work with, even though of course we all like now are constantly confronted with squares, right? So
oh yeah, we're forced to this. So this is a different one. I'm trying to frame it upside down, but this one feels like a lino cut. And if you can see the border at the top. And this is how I grew up, like both, like, you know, the thriving Mexicali across the border wall from me, and then the town that I grew up in, El Centro and Calexico area. But like that is just like I don't know, there's two figures like kind of pulling away to put it down, but Yeah, so this one feels like, I made this one 2019,
Mhm.
and I'm taking like it feels like Orozco, the head, the wheel with the two profiles
Mhm.
in the border of like probably Mexico and US
Yeah.
here. And he's standing over the world or crouching over the world. That's doesn't really look. Yeah, but so like these, I kind of I just really play with more. Um,
And how textural is the surface then with this technique?
well, these don't have these get oil. So
Okay.
this one I showed at the pit, and this one I've never shown, but now when they leave, they're getting some kind of oil applied to them
To fix it.
just to like seal it more and make it more lush.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's like my main goal. This show is how do I fuse these two,
Yeah. And so as you start to think about this show in LA, what are you focusing on then in terms of, like kind of its overarching theme or through line for you?
Honestly, I'm just gonna pick up the ball where I left it and keep going.
Okay.
I just want to like continue the conversation that I'm having now and see where it goes, because where I started with the first painting that that is in this show, I tied the first and the last painting of this show kind of tied together. It was the crumb both holding hands, so I kind of bookended that show, but I want to just keep going from that show, the current show now. So yeah, no drastic moves. But I definitely want to play with like this idea and moving stuff around for sure.
Yeah, I'm really struck by them. I think they're really fantastic. And we know, of course, that you live where you work. So when you say you're going to sleep on it, you mean it literally.
Yeah. Yeah, I live in my studio I've lived in my studio for the last I don't know, I think 4 years, maybe about 4 years. And when I first got the studio, it was just, I had like one little square and a bunch of other people were in here. And eventually everyone kind of like either got their own space or moved on. And so I kept taking over rooms, and then the room that we're in, I took over another studio and I knocked down a wall. I just like chiseled out a hole in the wall. Pretty funny. If anyone comes over, they're like, "Did you cut a hole in the wall like a sawzall?" So I just like literally cut a hole in the wall and then just moved more stuff into the. It's pretty funty.
I think you could hang that tunnel painting like behind that.
Oh my God, that's so true. It actually looks like that's so funny. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I just want to keep I live here because I want to just I want to live with the work, and I want to just be in it. Like I said earlier, like I love like laying it. I get up and 4 a.m, take a picture of my painting that I'm working on. Then I lay in bed till 6 a.m, staring at a little square, and flipping my phone. And I'm always just in it, and I'll get up and go into the room, and I want to be connected the whole time. I could probably go get an apartment, but I don't even want to furnish one. I don't want to deal with any of that. So I'm just living this bohemian lifestyle right now.
I love it.
As long as I can, and until like I'm already starting to having to deal with I want to make a bigger paintings, and I have an 8-foot door, so I have to like figure out how do I get bigger paintings out of this place, because it's still just, it's like an office building.
Yeah, I think a bigger saw, right? I mean,
a bigger what?
A bigger saw. You just have to cut a bigger hole in your wall.
Oh yeah, hold on, I gotta find you on my thing.
Okay, I'll start talking. So hopefully.
Oh, I see you.
Okay. Somebody writes a jackhammer. There you go.
A jackhammer, yeah, or
Yeah.
just make bigger window, cut the windows out, or I got to figure out something. But
Yeah.
I don't
It's
want to
kind
get
of,
into space. I don't want to.
yeah,
I love being here. I live above this pho restaurant in Chinatown, Pho
that's
87. If you ever see it, it's kind of it's really good pho, and I just love being in Chinatown. I'm paying $1 a square foot, and that's unheard of for LA and anywhere really. So I'm staying
I
till they
like
tear this building down.
it. Don't jinx yourself. So I think I want to ask you, is there anything else you want to talk about before we turn it over to our participant questions? I don't know if you can believe it, but it's been more than an hour and it went
Oh,
so.
wow, really? Wow. No, there's questions.
Of course.
Let's shoot some questions at me. That'd be fun.
Okay, all right, so let's turn it over to Jess and she'll moderate the rest of this.
All right,
Thank you.
lovely. Thank you both. Our first question comes from GE Schwartz. GE, you should be able to unmute.
Oh,
Hey, hi.
hello.
I am so taken by the punk background and all the cool stuff with that going on. And I always thought the best punks were like shamans, you know. I mean, and they're channeling everything. And I often see with your work, it seems to be kind of shamanic. And I was wondering, you know, you kind of already talked about it a little bit, but I was wondering how much you really just go full out and embrace like intuition and the subconscious. You kind of mentioned that a little bit.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Yeah.
I mean, that's a good question, because I really do want to tap into my subconscious the most when I'm drawing. I don't want to, when I'm drawing, I don't want to like sit there with a pencil and just try to like I want to like be detached from, like, I get like a longer stick. I got that from Bryce Martin. So like he did it and I was like, oh, that's a great idea of like stepping away from the surface and like letting it, if for some reason, like being really close to trying to like chisel out a drawing is different when you're back here and you're letting your mind go free a little bit more. And also keeping a clear head. I don't use drugs or alcohol anymore. So that's like one of the main reasons why I get to do this is because of that reason.
Yeah,
But,
straight edge, man.
Yeah, there you go. But I keep a clear head, or I try to. You know, the world's crazy and the phones are crazy and everything's happening, and there's energy just like that it's flowing around. I love to work at night when everything is calmed down and it's quieter. Just to like almost to set up for receiving something. You know, there's a cool documentary of Philip Guston where he talks about being in, because he moved out of New York City upstate to get away from the bustle of New York, and he was kind of talking about gives me chills when I first heard it, and it still resonates today. It's he's like, when there's, I'm gonna butcher this, but he says that when you're in the studio, there's people coming by, there's collectors, or your phone is ringing, and there's people, you know, over drinking wine or hanging out and looking at the work, and you're painting, and eventually one by one, everyone leaves. And then eventually you're there by yourself painting for a while, and then eventually you leave. And that's like what I chase the most, you know, the idea of like 4 hours have gone by and I have a stack of drawings and I don't really know, you know, where I've been for a while. And that feels real. That is real and not, but that's a sweet spot that I try to stay in. You know, it's something, it's channeling something other than myself. You know, I mean, to get really weird on you guys, like a lot of times I don't feel like a lot of times like I'm just drawing and something else is pushing the ink around, you know, which I know sounds, again, smoothie drinking LA.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all,
Did
man.
that answer your question?
Oh, so much so and more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool.
Lovely. Next up, we have our very own Malvika Jolly with a question.
Oh,
Thank you so much, Jess. Daniel, this has been fantastic. I feel like because I was doing screen sharing, I've been jotting down notes on all and like surrounded by Post-its. So I'll try and keep this coherent. But number one, I love the work. And number two, you have a really captivating way of speaking about it and like telling the story of the work. And I guess that's kind of where my question's at. I feel like seeing, and we barely scratched the surface of like the images that we had, but I feel like the work that you shared is so much about creation myths and kind of origin stories. I feel like we spent a lot of time on the pregnant grandmother on the fishing boat with the, and the detail that really did it for me was the fishing lines still taut in the ocean, the boat still fishing, which I think like has ideas about labor also, but like I would throw that out. Like there's something, it made me think so much of like these little books for children of origin stories from around the world. And in like Japanese creation myths, there's a sort of idea that food is made for the people. It comes out of the body of like the mother, right? That it's the mother being intimately connected to the ocean, the fish, the water, and that's how the people are fed. And that's kind of, I feel like the connection that was being made almost like under the water. For me, I was like, okay, she's giving birth and it's the lineage that leads to the artist, but she's still like, the food is still being collected, and the strawberry paintings are just so fantastic. But even like, it's like you telling the story of your mother, which is a way of telling the story of yourself, right? Yourself growing up eating the strawberry shortcake. But also like, it felt almost like a retelling or a reinvention of the story, right? That, as she's eating the strawberries, we would perceive it as like her spitting in the soup of her exploiters, right? Her like thumbing her nose, her flipping them off, and almost like, yeah, like really thumbing her nose at sort of the import-export of strawberries all over the world being like so easily facilitated, the travel of people being so curtailed. But there's something in that felt to me like all of your image systems, right, that you're doing this kind of like reinvention or retelling, like you're telling the story to yourself of yourself. And I feel like another example might be like the logic of the flowers that don't exist, where you're letting them bloom themselves, or the story of like the butterfly that goes through the desert as a vehicle picking up migrants, and how this is like a revision of the story of your life in a way. It's like you're fabricating an alternative. I guess my question is like, how are you building out these image systems? How are you telling these stories to yourself? Like, do you feel like you have a writing practice? Like, how are you putting this all, or how do you think about it?
yeah. There was a dear friend and an artist, Mario Ibarra Jr., who was in LA. And he, in the beginning, he really helped me like having studio visits. Like I didn't really have people coming in the studio, and he was really helping me. And I was talking to him about like being super dyslexic person, and like not in my whole life, it just like either I was told I was dumb, or in the 80s in my hometown, they were just like, you're dumb, go out and play. But it was like the desert and 120 degrees, and I was like, it's hot out there. I was like, I don't want to play out. They would make me go outside because I didn't know how to read, and it really like, and I'm still bad. Like I still have problems with dyslexia. That like, it's like the biggest annoying part of my life is having that. So I don't write anything down. I'll jot some stuff down. Every song I've written I play music, or I've never written them down. I just kind of learn them by doing it over and over again, just being repetitive. So there's ways that I have to there's other ways that I have to figure this out. But what's interesting about what Mario said is that I was in here like one day, like just kind of expressing how like frustrating it is to be dyslexic and not have this writing practice and not have this, you know, way of another way of looking at art. And he was like, looked around the room after I told him, he's like, well, you're doing that right now. And I just like a light bulb went off. He's like, this is how you're telling your story. And I never thought about it. I was just like, oh yeah, that like there's a way, like, you know, because I have this, like, the story still wants to get out. So it's going to find a way, like in creativity, like it's going to find out, like if I was really a really good writer and thought that way, I would be, you know, I would probably like just have books and make books and write books, you know. What's interesting too is that I feel more connected to a writer than a painter most of the time, just because I feel like we're doing the same thing. A writer needs like solitude, the phones, you know, just to be like in their own little hole for a little bit, to like pull things out of the sky, out of thin air, and write them down. You know, that's what I feel like I'm doing with these stories, and even like a landscape, that I'm making it a lush, like colorful landscape, when what I'm really thinking of is the dirty desert that doesn't look like that. So yeah, I mean, I do feel like my body wants to be a writer, but I have to make paintings and I still want to tell a story, you know. Did I answer that?
Yeah, yeah, you did. I also love this thing like counterfeit painter, gestural writer. You
I
know,
mean,
like, of course you don't feel like a
tried
painter.
to. I told a, you know, the reason why I'm paintings, I told a girl that I was a painter. I totally lied,
But that's the best way.
but
I guess like my question was so meandering, um, but because of also neurodivergence. But I feel like the thing in your paintings feels like it's telling, like it feels like peeking into your brain, and like the kind of the cult of the self, or a kind of mystique of like how each person sees the world and like narrates it. I
yeah.
don't know if that's how it feels to you, but it's very lyrical.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Malvika. Next up, we have David Fresh. David, you should be able to unmute.
Yep, I think that worked. Hey, Daniel.
Hi,
Hi,
David.
everybody. Thoroughly have enjoyed this talk you've given. It's just been terrific. Love your work, and grateful for that girl you had a crush on a long time ago for being a painter.
Yeah.
That was a good thing. You know, I just have a question. You know, you just done a big show in New York. You're preparing for another big one in LA. And I'm just curious, you know, with this kind of like this emergence that's happening, I guess fairly broadly and quickly, you know, how's that changing, if it's changing at all, your approach to painting, your approach to art making, your perspective on it? Just kind of curious what's happening there.
I love change. Like, I'll first say that I love when things change and things, but right now I kind of like want to stay in my studio and just act like nothing's happening and just keep making the work, because when I do feel like any kind of attention, I kind of like recoil from it. But I don't know, I just kind of want to like act like nothing's going on, to be honest. Because really, I mean, we're just people spinning around on a planet out in outer space. Yeah. It's like no big deal. Our lives are fun if you make it fun, you know. But I don't know. I'm not really thinking about it, to be honest. Or like I try not to think about any like attention or anything. That's what you're asking.
No, it sounds
and
good.
I don't like. I feel like there was a part of my for the next show, I was like, oh, I need to do something way crazier. I was like, or you just keep going, or just like pick up the ball and like keep going down the road, you know? I think that that's like the best answer for me.
Yeah, that's kind of the response that I expected from you based upon what you're doing and
Yeah.
your existing approach to what you're doing. Doesn't have to change dramatically or at all to remain vital and important.
Yeah. No, I know. I just want to keep my like head clear and just stay like focused, really.
Cool.
So
thank you. Thanks for the great work you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, David. I also like that metaphor of picking up the ball and just keeping on going.
Just keep it moving, people. Keep it moving. Yeah.
And next we have a question from Christian Breed. Christian, you should be able to unmute. There we go. Okay. Perfect.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you so much. That was great hearing about your work. I've really loved this conversation. And I was curious, so many of your images seem to have this capability of sort of dissolving, from being something that's recognizable to being something that's sort of purely sensory to a large extent. And I was curious because, also in Marsden Hartley, I kind of get that sense, to a large extent. And I was thinking about your relationship to abstraction. And I was curious if that was something that you consciously consider, and if abstraction is something that you kind of keep in the forefront of your mind, or it ever comes to you consciously, or if it's just sort of a byproduct of your process. And if so, I mean, are there any abstract artists? Is there any abstraction specifically that you kind of stay very aware of?
Well, don't we all end up doing abstraction?
Could be.
I love abstraction probably more than anything, and like the new school and the New York school and everything, I really still pay attention to and study, and I love that. I don't know. I'm not an abstract artist because I've heard that I don't know what I am, but I know that I don't fully go abstract because I still want to tell a story. And I kind of still, even though I'm hiding a lot of the story a lot of times, or I'm not revealing all of it, or I'm hiding it in back of Pretty Flowers or another story, I still want to give you, the viewer, and myself, a story or a message or something, a cry out, with abstraction, it almost seems like it's just diving in, which I love too, it's really exploring, your heart and your mind, abstraction. That's why I love it. But I'm still at the stage where I'm still trying to tell a story to you and to everyone else, still trying to communicate. I think like abstraction, you communicate still, but I don't know. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Totally.
Does it?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But I will be like, I mean, this is abstraction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can see it. I'm not looking at you, but yeah, I still want to tell you know what it is, like I can't, my body and my mind still want to make a figure. That's probably the reason why I'm not an abstract artist, because I'm still like, I'll still put, even if you put in an eye, sometimes the whole painting will be a figurative painting, or you put in something that resembles a gesture or something, and it becomes a figurative painting. So it's a dance.
Right. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. We have next a question from one of our Rail regulars, Lynn Crawford. Lynn, you should be able to unmute your mic.
Hi.
Hello.
This has been so cool.
Oh, awesome.
Really fresh and invigorating. And I kind of have a comment, but hopefully you'll tell me if you think it's on or not. The whole time I keep thinking of the difference between my understanding of what a shaman does and what a Western medical doctor does. And a Western medical doctor, you know, looks at something and assesses it or diagnoses it. And a shaman sort of inhabits or cohabits or merges with the subject or the condition. And the whole time you were talking, I kept thinking how much you reminded me your approach of that second of the shaman, where you're merging with something.
Yeah.
You're inhabiting it, but then you're letting it into you. So it's almost like an illustration between the difference between those two forms of healing.
Yeah. Wow, I've heard shaman like 3 times today. I don't feel like one, or I don't feel like I'm due. I don't know what. I'm definitely not pushing drugs on people like a medical doctor.
Well, not so much what you're doing, but not so much the result, but your approach.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at something from a distance, your proximity is not that. It's more entwined somehow, or
Yeah, I know. I can't. That's hard to explain, because I'm always trying to think of what I'm doing there too. But I think it's just because a lot of the subject matter. I've said this before, like last year in another show, like in the press release, like, and I'm still doing it today. And there's like there's 3 parts of a painting for me. And I see it all the time. And like, sometimes I don't even know I'm doing it. And there's 3 parts, and there's one that I want to show you, Lynn. I want to show you the painting. And then there's another part of the painting that I'm only kind of like talking to myself in. So I leave that in there that no one really sees. And then there's the other part where like, I don't want anyone to see. A lot of times myself, which is too hard to look at, but it's in there. And when, if I'm with you and in one-on-one with the painting, I'll start, I don't know. A lot of times I don't even bring up what I'm really showing to myself. So there's a healing part of this too, that I connect with. A lot of times I don't know that it's happening until I'm walking by a painting and I catch it and I go, oh my God, that's that. And I'll like, oh wow. And then I'll look at my sketches and I'm like, it's not even in here. but it came out in the painting. So it's like there's a lot of that happens. But I'm definitely doing the like what I want you to see, what I want me to see, and then what I want no one to see in a painting, So am I able to answer that question? I'm always like, what did I kind of like go off and don't.
That's fine. It's great. What you said was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lynn. One of our last questions comes from Joshua Massip. Joshua, you should be able to unmute your mic.
Yo, thanks, Jess, Malvika,
Hello.
everybody that made this possible. Yo, thanks, Daniel. As you seem like, your work is just hitting everybody upside the head. I just want to say, continue to keep looking forward, because you got a bright future ahead of you. And you know what I'm saying? Like, the past is the past, you know what I'm saying? So just be strong, live on that, you dig?
Yeah.
But yo, I wanted to ask you, my question is, what's your cat's name?
My cat?
Yeah.
What cat?
Oh, you ain't got no cat?
No.
Right. I mean, no pun, but you know what I'm saying? Most artists got like cats, dogs.
Oh, like a studio cat. Man, I'm a dog person.
What's your dog's name?
He just passed away. His name was Taco, though. His name was Taco. Taquito. Taco.
Taquito, yo, you silly, man.
I'm getting another dog though. I'm gonna name him Theo, Uncle. But he's out in the desert right now. But I gotta go pick him up. But I love
Man.
I love having animals around the studio, and I love animals around me.
Yo,
Cats,
just keep up the great work, D. I'm not gonna
Thank
keep
you.
you know what I'm saying? I just wanted to say, yo, it was a dope show.
Thank you.
I'm glad I made it.
Thank you.
Absolutely, bro.
Take care.
Thank you. And I'm also going to steal a tiny bit of time for a question of my own. I feel like these paintings are so captivating to me because there's such a strong charge or pull towards home. And even though my hometown is different, I feel like that intensity and vibrancy of color and the care that you give to the landscape really reminded me of the way that childhood memories draw us in, and how potent memory can be. But some of these amazing stories you've shared today are also about the danger of the desert and what you've described as the blown up quality of the desert. And so I'm wondering, do you think that there's a sort of recuperative dimension to your paintings? Or maybe could you speak to this relationship between your experience of your hometown and how you represent it in the paintings?
Oh, what's funny is that like I've been living in LA and San Diego and San Francisco. I moved out of the desert, or out of El Centro, California, when I was 21 in 98. That was a while ago. And what's funny is that I'm still talking about that place. I don't talk about really Los Angeles or San Francisco or San Diego, or I've never really had a cityscape in a painting. I barely have interiors, it's always just like this vast outdoors or vast desert. I do want to represent my town. I think that there's so many beautiful people there that get unnoticed because it isn't like we call it the armpit of California. And there's a thing that happens there that it's just working class, we probably are now, but back when I was growing up, no one's told you to be you could be an artist, and you have to break away from all that to pursue this, yeah, I mean, I'm grateful that I come from where I came from and experience what I've experienced. I think it shapes the conversation that I'm having now, internally too. But yeah, I hope that I'm representing my hometown, to the best that I can, and I hope that I'm giving back in a way of either if it's raising awareness to people that I work with or in contact with. There's a lot of aid that happens in Mexicali. There's an organization called Border Kindness, which is in Mexicali, and they help migrants that are and refugees that are coming that get trapped in Mexicali. I don't know. I wish there was a link below how they say it in YouTube. I would link below, but there's a lot of people that help out there that are doing such an amazing job. Border Angels are helping people that are crossing, putting water out there for them, and water, food, blankets. They're an amazing organization. Yeah, so I'm just want to show some kind of shed some kind of light on the situation there. Obviously I'm not super into laws and politics of everything. I just kind of approach it from the a human perspective of everyone's human and everyone has a right and everyone should be free and everyone should have love and shelter and a way to make a living. You know, when the water rises, the people are gonna go where it's dry. You know, so people need to understand that. And like this whole idea that if I hear this one more time, like they just need to come here legally, Danny, that bullshit, like give me a break. Like really, but that's like another hour of talking about that. But yeah, I just want to shed light onto like what goes on out there, and hopefully I represent myself and the town that I'm from.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Daniel. And I see that Malvika has dropped the link to Border Kindness.
Oh,
Down
cool. Donate. Anything helps. Like the electricity is really high, and they need to have ACs on all the time. They do acupuncture. They give dental work to kids, toys, anything that happens. Like really $5 goes a long way there.
Thank you, Malvika. And last but certainly not least, we have a question from Fong Bui, our publisher and artistic director of The Rail.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Daniel. Terrific.
Thank you.
Just to let you know that the dyslexia is super common among artists.
Yeah.
Beginning with Jackson Pollock, Robert Rauschenberg, Dorothea Rockburn, our dear friend, Bill Jensen, and endless others. It's very, very common for visual intelligent, sensitive, creative individuals. So I don't think that one should feel the need to make excuses for it, really. One of my terrific pleasure and really profound opportunity in life, Daniel, is when I was helping sorted out the letters of correspondences between the late art historian Maya Shapiro and his endless friends. And one of the things that he did was to advocate. One of the letters I remember clearly was a recommendation letter that he wrote when the Guggenheim used to have the Latin America Caribbean competition, and in support of Frida Kahlo. It's very interesting that she mentioned that even though Kahlo didn't have the sentiment of the heroic and the political dimension like Orozco or Rivera and others, but she had the super profound connection to the common Mexican tradition of naive art. That was very important, folk art, and everything else in between, because what I feel, having listened to you in and out, I wasn't there the whole entire time, but I think there's an incredible poetic and lyrical restraint in your love and admiration for art history that Amanda pointed out from the early on for a good half an hour. And it reminded me so much of Kahlo, who once said that nothing is worth more than laughter, the strength to laugh and to abandon oneself to be light. Super important to remind oneself that the substitution humor is profound. It's not to be heavy, because when you're heavy, you can't make beautiful work or important work or to elevate yourself on the ramp, And so tragedy is the most ridiculous thing in some way, how you see it, depend how you say it, as you see it. My question is very simple, whether you have looked at her work, but also the whole tradition of, Mexicali. That whole tradition is so important. And lastly, how that tie into magic realism, because to be able to express yourself through laughter, to humor, and to any other form that we see today in your work, it's a serious undertaking, because you have to mediate what is important in your life and how to characterize them accordingly in order to make leaps. So that's my question for you. The synthesis of those sources, magic realism, Frida Kahlo, folk art, and then tie back to what Jess just mentioned, to the place that you decided that you will forever love, which is your upbringing.
Okay, so let's see. Magic realism. I'm not sure. Can you tell me what magic realism is to you?
The literary genre is really championed by Latin American writers that we know, like Marquez, Borges.
Okay. Okay. Well, you mentioned like not being laughing and not taking yourself too seriously, but still like talking about real issues. I want to stay there. You know, like there's a part of me like when everyone was glued to the televisions, whatever channel you guys watched, but everyone's glued to the television of like what Donald Trump was doing every 20 seconds and how the world was burning. And I found myself getting sucked in, like where I would like wake up, not meditate, not do my ritual, you know, things I do in the morning, but just went straight to the TV, which I never do. I had it even set up in a certain area that I was just like, and I stopped making work. And I just focused on being upset and being angry about the political climate, that like I stopped laughing, I stopped like exercising, I stopped doing a lot of things, and I was just glued and angry to the television of the world that's always burning, but now it looks a little different kind of burn, which is, you know, is horrible that the guy was in office. But I like, yeah, I it hit me that it's just that I'd rather like, I don't have too much time on this planet. And I want to like laugh and love and be healthy and keep a clear head, you know, and help people when I can, and really make art digestible a lot of to people. You know, I want my uncle to look at a painting that has been a welder for his whole life and get something from it still, you know. And I do want to connect to working class people and connect to everybody, but I just feel like a lot of times art world is just only for certain people, you know, and you know, I want to like connect to my people first, to say it bluntly, because my people are working class people. You know, my people are that I've known my whole life is like electricians and welders and mechanics and you know, field workers, and you know, those people I connect with the most, because I just have, you know, I didn't just the way I was raised, but I still want to like make art for those people too, you know, everybody. I don't know if that answered your question.
It did. Thank you, Daniel. It just simply reflect our own aspiration too at the rail. That's the reason why the rail is free, because we want to reach to every segment of our social structure, not just the privileged people. Actually, one of our great aims is to mobilize our intelligent friends from the academy and share their knowledge. This is the perfect example of Amanda, the professor of history, and you, the painter, talking about this manner in this very specific, generous, open way is exactly what we do here.
Yeah.
And anger can really destroy you very easily. You know, I remember years ago taking class, philosophy 101, first thing I was taught was to read Aristotle, who say that to be angry is easy, but to be angry in the right moment, right time, specific right angle is very difficult. So that's why I think that for us to be mindful of that, because it has titanic energy, and you certainly can use it, have been using it in a very inspiring way. So it's a nice to have you here now, NSE today, and congratulations on the show.
Thank you.
And Joshua, he have the 2 crickets. He doesn't need a cat. Gracias.
Two crickets. That's funny.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love that, Fong. And Daniel, I think Amanda had a question. What were your crickets' names?
They didn't have me. I
Oh,
should have
no.
named them. I should have named them. But I mean, cricket number 1, cricket number 2. I knew the difference between the two. I never named them because I didn't know if, like, I kept like researching if they were like, how long do they live? And do they just keep coming? Like, do the same 2 crickets they can't be the same crickets. They have like a shelf life or a life of like 90 days or something like that. And we went 365 days in here. So they actually left. They're gone.
Oh.
So it feels like it's like a superstition that I need to get over, because I'm like, the crickets are gone. I thought that they were helping me plow through these paintings, because I literally made that whole show and really fast.
Oh, so they're magical crickets.
They were my magical crickets that had no name, but they're gone, and I hopefully they'll come back.
Okay, we'll keep our fingers crossed for the return of the crickets.
I'll let you know. I'll let everyone know if they come back.
Daniel, they may as well be named Giotto and Masaccio. Those were the 2 artists that you didn't mention in your Guston story. It was it was not the
Giotto
and Masaccio and Piero de Francesca, all the masters.
Right. Oh yeah.
I admire. Okay.
All right, moving to poetry. At the Rail, we have a tradition of ending our community events with a poetry reading, and I'm thrilled to welcome our Poet Laureate of the Day, Anna Gurton-Wachter, to the stage. Anna Gurton-Wachter is a writer, editor, and archivist. Her first full-length book, Utopia Pipe Dream Memory, was published by Ugly Duckling Press in 2019. Her chapbooks include My Midwinter Poem, Spring Bomb, Mother of All, The Abundance Chamber Works Alone, Blink Blink Blues, and Cyrus. Anna, take it away.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Thanks everyone at the Rail. Daniel, that was an amazing talk. I have been to a bunch of these, and this was one of my favorite days of all of these. Really special and amazing, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of your work. I'm just going to read a little bit from my book, Utopia Pipe Dream Memory. And I think, like Daniel said about feeling akin to writers, even though working in a visual medium, I'm sort of a writer who thinks a lot about visual art. I'm an archivist of a visual artist. I'm constantly thinking about and inspired by how artists try to describe what they're doing and what they're inspired by, and how other people who see that work try to describe that experience as well with language. And so all of the language in what I'm going to read comes from writing down conversations about art. Distance, montage, not knowing motion, the moment I exist transmits through a spectrum out of cylindrical towers. The best moments, when the ideal of the work is a night, an occasion, I can't use it, but it's fascinating, maybe it's more. Why does it look casual when we don't believe the poet? My real brief thing here is that the people are the page. I would have liked how much a train I am, the wreckage, how much there is some descent. The world lost all of its hard-ons, hard edges today. To describe pushing back, oppressive, vivid shreds, questions an archaeological dig daily, not that there is a universe. A dream is a dilation in conversation. Not a poetry problem, a something else complicit. I don't like the idea of power over. What do I have to know to subvert? I run, sink, and my claws are a sheer surface end part. It will be a thing in the world. How scandal is engaged, I don't know, pops out of experience, digest, saw, okay, it's always this fast part of, I did a poem today, layers, permitted, me, permission, I experience subtractively, spare me this productive line shit. Love, altered morning, and the generous fucked reassurance of real work time. There are like actions in my innermost deep across. It makes me want to write like her, from her. I'm pretty sure I don't know anything. Like what is a sonnet, generative gesture? Calm down, or we like each other. So I was all about sharing a coma. I've been in comatose voice. We all have. She's near, too far from text shape, tradition, blade. Get on thinking, lush, wandering, three constructed voices. Train this feeling of how I forgot to read. I like that. Just talk, unlocked, reading the wide margins. There are two flies in my wine. Also, what do we do that isn't pretending? A light, when both ends are lit, the whole thing explodes. I don't know what other people think. Hop back, disjointed. It didn't actually slant. It doesn't matter what this would be like. Static. We know now. Suspense. Trying to feel thwarted. Trying to just feel. Not from Utopia chunk challenges anything foreclosed, why it would be impossible. It's a joke, pipe dream, beautiful world. I'm not going to stop what draws me to it. Time collapses. I was manifested, even though there is light and light moves. I was real comfortable. I felt like being immediate, understanding these temporal connections inform one another. Feminisms are the whole text, her understanding, making one's lived life, and now they vaguely know what is free. Lit, satisfying, explodes, think vaguely, a confused utopia collapses, gets there. Where are we forgetting? Things just choose. One plane at a time, bound up globally, police oppression abroad, recording, transposing grammars. The problem with what we are doing, our habits, the problem is grammar, circumventing, not my problem, limitations. And to get someone to feel what I am feeling. I don't ask of other poems accuracy, truth-telling, text, memoir, kinda comforting. What is she revealing? Distinguish my brain, the film, different ways of reading. Could this be boundaries that seem natural to you that you had to deal with? Oh no, if anybody else thought flashing a visual person imagines, I'm just gonna let this do its thing, a grid. She wouldn't know and I wouldn't know either. It is soothing in a way. I kept seeing a picture. I want to know if something coheres in this identity. Is this you feeling, since it is a month and since it is a lot, and missing the day, whatever day you are looking at, a grid empowers. It's one's job, afraid this is what living feels like. Everything can be shared. No, the limitations, what restricts us from connecting. Value, is she a hoarder? That's my feeling. It comes back, some of you said. She is a hoarder. What does that mean she has? Thanks very much.
I love that.
Thank you, Anna. That was beautiful. And thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Amanda. And thank you, of course, to everyone who tuned in today and for all of your questions. Join us tomorrow at 1 p.m. for a radical poetry reading curated by Neely Tchaikovsky, featuring readings by Seth Amos, Agneta Falk, Kyle Harvey, and Danny Rosen. You can now turn on your microphone and say goodbye as you leave.
Thank you.
Daniel.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Amanda.
Anna, incredible.
Amanda, thanks, Daniel.
Great reading.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Daniel.
Thank you, Anna, for the
Wonderful
Thanks, Amanda.
conversation today. Really enjoyed it.
Great, great, great.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. You're the man.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Anna. That was a great
everybody.
read it. Love that. Read it.
Love the
Oh, that
reading.
was good.
Love
That
the
was-
reading.
Really good.
I was.
Great reading.
You're the man.
Beautiful.
Gracias.
Yes. So nice.
Jess, I love the sound of your voice.
Love your voice too, Joshua.
Yes, we love your voice.
Hey, Fog, I like your voice too, man.
Man, I wish
I
could.
love everyone's voice.
One day I could teach me how to talk like you, okay? Joshua, let's do that, please.
Hey, man, shoot me an email, Fog.
I'm with
I
it.
will, buddy. I will, bro. Daniel, congratulations on the show.
Thank you.
See it. Thank you, Amanda, for being who you are. And
Thank
Anna,
you.
Thank you, Amanda.
that's
Thank
it,
you, Daniel.
guys.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Amanda. We'll
Now
see
we
you.
go to lunch with such happiness. Woo!
Such happiness.
Salute to you guys with